Now, as you can see, here's the front of the Aerosmith cabinet. There's the inside, and I'm going to kind of walk up in here and show you. It is pretty clean in here. I've wiped everything out best I could. You can see that the cabinet is in pretty good shape. I swept everything, good to go. In case you've never seen the underside of a playfield or an Aerosmith, this is pretty much what it looks like underneath. Now, something to note that I think is pretty cool about this machine is if you look right here, I'll zoom in, that kicker, or that, see if I can, right there, this solenoid, that right there is angled, and it is nothing more than the same components that are, on the flippers up here. The difference is it's angled sideways, and that is literally, or not even sideways, but at an angle. And when that switch in that square hole is hit, it launches that ball up into the toy box. So that's how they get the ball to fly through the air. They've got it set at an angle instead of straight up and down or sideways and whatnot. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's nothing special about that component other than the way that it's angled under the playfield to hit the ball at that angle that causes it to launch up like a basketball. Okay, so real quick is what I wanted to show you guys. This I'm going to tackle in another video, but you see here where the cabinet by the start button on this machine is kind of separating, like the wood is literally separating. Apparently, this is something that I failed to realize was going on with these machines. And there's information on it, but I hadn't run across it or read about it. But apparently it's not an uncommon thing. Not very common, in the total number they've made to how many of these are actually doing this. But it is common enough that there is a certain amount of these machines that have had this problem where literally the seam is just splitting. So in order to fix this, what I'm gathering is somehow I've got to seal that back, clamping it back together, and probably have some wood glue to that to where it will seal. Probably going to have to go to the inside of the cabinet and put a bracket in there once I get it sealed together so that that bracket holds that tight and doesn't allow it to come apart again. These little corner brackets that should have been in here, if you ask me, when they started to realize the problem on this machine, they should have started installing them, or at least offering some kind of service or something. I don't know, but either way, I'm pretty upset about it because it's going to be a pain in the butt to get that sealed together. That wood does not want to press together very easily. That is hard for, I tried to do it by hand, and to get that to close up is going to take quite the amount of pressure. And then on top of it, while it's sealed up with the glue, I'm going to have to put the bracket on. And then hopefully that will keep this problem from happening again and fix it. Something to note, when I lifted the playfield up, I had literally taken this towel here and stuffed it down into here to prevent the balls from falling out. And when I lifted it completely up and out of the cabinet, the balls literally stayed in the trough and they didn't go anywhere. You should probably always just take the balls out to be safe, but that's not how I did it, and it worked. I wouldn't recommend doing it that way because it's not how everybody tells you to do it, so it's just an option if you really want to. So yeah, I just left the balls in there. So I just thought I'd mention that. Now, as you can see, this playfield, I'm going to try and get real close to it. Oops, sorry, there's a little bit of a glare, but when you get down into here, you can kind of see, like, right in this area here, you see how there's a lot of dirt going on. You can just see it covering up the yellow. And, you can see it where it's light, but in all these other, you can kind of see it right in there. And you can really see it on the face. Yeah, so there is quite an incredible amount of dirt throughout the playfield. You can see it on the faces here. I will never allow this pinball machine to get this dirty again before I clean it. But this is just an example of, just what builds up just by sitting there. See how the ramps, are even getting it. Depending on what kind of a room you have your machine in, what kind of dust is floating around, you just don't realize it, that no matter how much you try to clean it, look at all that dirt in between the pop bumpers. This kind of stuff builds up over time, and if you let it get any worse than it probably is right now, maybe I shouldn't have even let it get to this point, but for video purposes, I'm kind of glad that it's got to have a thorough cleaning, because we're going to get to see how using these products put the end result together, when it's all done. The shout out to Tilt Amusements. I've got to take that sticker off of there because I bought this game from them and it was on one of their routes. They're a Stern dealer for, the better part of Ohio. They're a little bit west of Columbus, but they do pretty well with Stern dealings, and I would recommend getting games off of them anytime. So just want to throw that shout out there. I'm not being paid to say that. That's just my opinion. They're a good company. They're good people. Buy your machines from them. You can't go wrong. They'll work with you if there's an issue. Anyways, back to what we're going to do. So now that you've kind of seen the play field and you realize just how dirty this is, I'm going to take a step back so you can kind of see the machine as a whole. I'll take the zoom out. So, here's the back box, screen, playfield in its entirety. This is a very, very fun game. I've been very happy since I've owned it. One thing that I can say for sure is it's a difficult game for me for some reason, and I am still really working on my score. Out of the year I've had it, I'm still struggling to get over 200 million points. Granted, I do have the highest score on the machine right now, but, I'd like to have a 1 billion point game. I've seen it be possible. I've seen somebody have a 3 billion point game on this. So I've got my work cut out for me. This game by far I have not beaten in its entirety. And because of the difficulty I have with this game, it makes for a really nice game, because the longer it takes to conquer the game, the more difficult, the more challenging. To somebody who's, getting really into pinball like myself, you find that helps you to keep a game longer and appreciate it, for the amount of money that you spent on it. Ideally, I'd like to, master any game that comes in the door before I try to ship it out or make money with it, which is something I'm not even doing right now. But in the future, I would like to run an amusement company, kind of a small side operation, something to add income and allow me to make money back on the hobby that's costing me a fortune, so that I can afford to not only play my games, but, make back on them to help afford the entire situation. So it's not just about putting profit in my pocket, it's about also allowing me to be able to continue to buy and continue to enjoy these great games by the different companies that are out there. Stern is not the only company. There are several. If you're getting into pinball, I urge you to go out and look and, see what's in the market. Don't just settle on one thing. But I also have to take those tilt stickers off because, like I said, this was another company's game. So the only thing I can say with having that sticker in the background is they're a reputable company for Stern machines, and you should check them out, especially if you're in Ohio. But by the end of this video, those stickers won't be there anymore, and this playfield is going to be clean. Okay, so in this video so far, I've talked about the Aerosmith machine. I've talked about this being a new pinball channel. I've also talked about the fact that I'm not really into doing a lot of video editing, so a lot of times you just get me as I am. So sometimes, it's not the most perfect choreographed video. I'm no professional speaker here. But these items that you see, the microfiber towels, the Novus 1, 2, and 3, and the Mother's California Gold Ultimate Wax System Pure Brazilian Carnauba Wax, is the items that we're going to be using for this cleaning. Now, there are other things that you can do to clean the playfield ahead of using the Novus and the wax. There are other videos out there. I urge you to check them all out, not just mine. But I really truly believe that with just these products, I can probably achieve what I'm looking for on this playfield, even despite the amount of dirt that I've shown you that's on the playfield. Microfiber towels are a must. That's the best thing to use on the playfield. When it comes to the Novus, we will not be using number 3. I wouldn't even recommend number 3. Number 1 and number 2 are the only two that you're going to need for this. The number 1 Novus is really a non-abrasive polish. You can use that on all the plastics. Like, for instance, I'll point to it. This here, this would be considered a plastic. You can polish all of that stuff with the Novus 1. Generally, you're not going to need Novus 2 for that because the ball really isn't rolling across those plastics. Okay? But when it comes to the playfield, you have a couple of options. You can either take the Novus 1 and do a thorough cleaning of it once over first and then use Novus 2. Or you can use Novus 2 and then Novus 1. I think it just all depends on preference. Obviously, to some, it's going to make sense to use Novus 2 first because that takes all the thick stuff out. The little bits of scratches, it polishes that up, takes the dirt off. And then, you're using the first Novus as more of a polish to go over it. But most cases and most videos show them, if anything, using Novus 1 first to get the dirt and debris off, and then Novus 2 to do its job, kind of get it down to where it's actually going to do a better job on the scratching and stuff. Because, you do have a surface amount of dirt that's on there ahead of it. So maybe I would recommend using Novus 1 just to wipe down as much of the dirt off of the surface as possible. Then using Novus 2 to really polish, everything thorough, get some of the ball trails off, some of the scratch marks. And then, once you've gotten a thorough cleaning with that product, or those two products, then going to your wax and giving your playfield a good and thorough waxing. Be careful when you use this wax. Don't put too much on, don't put not enough on. But the last thing you want is to get globs of it in the corners of things where it builds up around posts and stuff like that. You want to avoid that. You just want to get a nice thin layer of wax, a good thorough coating, thin layer across the entire thing. Buff it out thoroughly and make sure everything is wiped clean after the wax sets. You don't want a lot of residue and stuff, like I said, and you get gunk buildup around things. You don't want that. You want it to be completely cleaned off and polished and ready for that ball to slide across there with ease and not be able to pick up any wax or anything like that off the play field because you didn't thoroughly clean that off. It's just wise to make sure that you clean everything off to where you don't have stuff building up. Those things can affect a multitude of things over time. As far as the wire ramps go, I'm not really sure of the best cleaning method for that, as I've never done it before. But there is some dirt on the wire ramps, so I'll probably just wipe that off with a microfiber towel and just thoroughly wipe them down the best I can, but use no solvents of any kind. Just give them a thorough wipe down. That will polish them up some. We'll take a good amount of the debris off of it. But until I do some more research on ramps, I don't want to go using any kind of product on them. So I'll just, make sure, because there's not much ramp to this game. 2 ramps. So it shouldn't be that difficult. I might put a little more effort into the, playfield part of the ramp where it goes up into the, let's see if I can, like this part here going up that part of the ramp. I'll clean that a little more thoroughly. But the wire forms, those I'm not going to put any kind of solvents and stuff on. I'm just not sure how to go about that yet.